Hello guys, welcome to my guide on modern industrialization. In this guide I'm going to show you how to get through the early game of modern industrialization. To get started with the mod, you will need to require to build yourself a forge. You just need some iron and some iron plates to do it. With the forge you can craft plates. To start, you will require 2 ingots per plate. Once you have enough plates, 20 to be exact, you can craft them into bigger plates to make yourself a hammer. With the hammer, you can get plates for cheaper as it only requires 1 ingot now per plate. After that, I suggest you're going to craft yourself a steam mining drill. It will require some diamonds, but I do recommend crafting one. To use it, you're going to need a water bucket and some fuel. Just right click the fuel on the steam mining drill and right click the water bucket on it. It also has silk touch. You can disable silk touch by shift clicking and right clicking it. By just shift clicking, you can just mine single blocks. Okay, it's time to make some bronze. For bronze, you're going to need tin and copper. Start off by collecting the raw tin, put it in the forge. You can use the hammer to get more out of it and get some tin dust. Do the same with copper. With 3 copper dust and 1 tin dust, you can make yourself some copper. Just smelt it down to get the ingot. Once you have some ingots, you can craft some plates with it to make yourself a wrench. The wrench is going to be useful now, because now we're going to start crafting up our first machines. We're going to start off with a water pump, a boiler, and a macerator. To craft these, you will need to craft down some bricks to break dust. You can just use the forge for that. With the brick dust and the clay, you can craft yourself some fire clay dust. You could smelt those up to fire clay bricks to eventually get the fire clay bricks. To craft a boiler, these are the required materials you need. To craft a bronze macerator, these are the required materials. These are the materials for the water pump. These are all break down. Next, you're gonna want to craft yourself some more pipes. For 16 pipes, you need 1 glass pane, 6 copper, and 6 bronze. To get started with your first 3 machines, place down your water pump next to the water source. Place the boiler next to the water pump. Shift right click the water pump to automatically extract water to the boiler. To get the boiler started, put in some fuel and 1 water bucket so it starts to make some steam. The boiler will send steam to any block that is next to it, so place your macerator next to the boiler. With the macerator, you can start to ward doubling. Shift right clicking aside with the wrench will extract the items from the machine. After we've made ourselves our first machines, we can start by making some more machines, like the compressor, which we can craft with these raw materials. The compressor allows us to make plates. We can also make ourselves a furnace with these raw materials, and a mixer with these materials. To link them up, you can just use some fluid pipes. Now it's time to make your first coke oven. To place your first coke oven, you're gonna have to craft some input and output hatches for both liquid and items. While holding an input or output hatch, you can see where the possible areas are where you can place them. While having the wrench on the controller, you can see where the bricks need to go. Once it's complete, it will have an interface that will say shape valid, status active. Once you place down your first coke oven, it's time to make some coke. The coke oven will need some steam, so just use your boiler for that. Use the input hatch, put in some coal, then the output hatch, the coke comes out. Once you have yourself some coal coke, you can start using the macerator to get some coke dust. Once Once you have some coke dust, it's time to get some steel. First, you also need to dust down some iron. You can either use just ingots or raw iron with the macerator. To get a chance to get even more. With 7 iron dust, 2 coke dust, you can make yourself some steel dust. Craft yourself a steam blast furnace. It's the same as the coke furnace, just one taller. It also needs power, so just use a bronze water pump and boiler again to power it. Just input your steel dust, and out comes the steel. Once you have yourself some steel, you can start by making some pipes. You can make some pipes with just 12 steel ingots and 6 bronze. These are the raw materials. You can also dye your pipes. Just take some dye and the pipes in your inventory. There you have it. This mod, you can put 3 types of pipes in one space. To connect up a machine to a chest, you're gonna have to place down your pipe, shift right click the machine, shift right click the chest, click on the input modes. It's important there is always whitelist enabled to start. Just make sure you disable it if you want to. Same with the input. If you want to output, set it to output. Next off, it is recommended to automate some clay, as you will need a lot of it. In this example, I have 2 boilers hooked up, but you can also do one. It will just not run at full efficiency. Just use the boiler and the bronze water pump. Start off with a mixer and put some lava and water in it. You can lock spaces with the lock editing setting and just clicking it. I require putting 1 cobblestone stack in it, feeding it to a chest, then feeding it into the bronze mixer with a higher insert priority than into the next step. So in the next step, we're going to put it into a macerator to get the cobblestone to gravel. Then into another macerator to get the gravel into the sand. With a mixer, the sand, with water hooked up from the water pump to make some clay. And then a macerator again to get some clay balls. I hooked it up to a barrel. You can also use a chest or whatever you choose. Now that you've made it through the Bronze Age, I would suggest you stay in the Bronze Age a little longer to make yourself some automated farms. Start off with a coke dust production. For this, just gonna have an input chest and the output chest with a boiler in the middle. To make it, I have 2 coke ovens linked up with the input hatches to the input chest. Very simple. The boiler I've hooked up to a bronze water pump with a water source below the boiler with a pipe in it. Steam just connecting to the fluid input hatches on both the coke ovens and a macerator. As we don't just want normal coke, we wanted coke dust. The output, the red line, is just from the macerator. As the coke oven outputs, we just go in the macerator. One macerator can handle 2 coke ovens. Sorry, my bad. And into the output chest. Next off, we have the iron dust production. The same principle goes here with the bronze boiler, the input chest and the output chest. On this end, we just have 1 simple macerator. You can make multiple of these if you really need a lot of iron dust to make steel. I would suggest if you do this in survival, like you should, you make 2 of these at least. Now at last, steel production. The principle is the same. Boiler in the middle, input, output, hooked up to 3 steam blast furnaces. Just so simple. I have a world download in the description if you guys are interested to see these machines up close. They're not very complex, so I think you guys can all make them. This was the first part of my guide to modern industrialization. If you guys want to see part 2, please subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.